Have you ever tried to find one single simple answer in a giant pile of official documents? It feels impossible, right? Like you're searching for a needle in a haystack that's also made of needles. Well, today we're going to dive into a brand new AI framework called CatRAG. It was designed by researchers at Lam-Thu University to solve that exact frustrating problem.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll get into the weeds of the problem and what we're calling the university maze. We'll look at why current AI tech, as good as it is, still kind of struggles. Then, we'll introduce the hero of our story, CatRAG. We'll see how it works, how it did in testing, and then zoom out to see why this thing matters way beyond just a college campus.
All right, so our story kicks off at Lam-Thu University over in Vietnam. And just like any big school or company, students have a ton of questions about all the rules and regulations. The problem? Getting a straight answer is a massive headache. I mean, look at this question. It seems so simple, right? But for a student, this could be a really critical piece of information that affects their whole academic career. And that's just one example. Think about questions like, what do I need to do to get a scholarship? Or how do I switch my major?
And here is exactly why that simple question is so tough to answer. The info is all over the place, scattered across a dozen different PDFs, random websites, and old handbooks. It's all written in this super dense, formal language that's hard to parse. And the cherry on top, the rules are always changing. This isn't just a little inefficient. For students, it creates some real stress and uncertainty.
So, the obvious thought is, hey, let's just use a chatbot for this. I mean, it makes sense. And they did try. But it turns out, even with how far AI has come, those first-wave solutions had some pretty serious blind spots.
The number one biggest problem is this thing called AI hallucination. This is when a really powerful AI, like the ones we use every day, just makes things up. And the crazy part is, it sounds incredibly confident when it does it, but the answer is just flat out wrong. When you're dealing with official rules and regulations, confidently wrong is pretty much the worst-case scenario.
Now, to fight these hallucinations, developers really had two main tools in their toolbox. On one hand, you have standard RAG. Think of it like a super fast search engine that finds the right paragraphs to keep the AI's answer based in fact. On the other hand, you have GraphRAG, which is way more sophisticated. It builds this giant interconnected map of how all the ideas relate to each other. RAG is fast and great for finding specific facts, but it can get tripped up by vague questions. GraphRAG gets the deep context, but weirdly enough, it can sometimes be less effective on its own. So you see the problem. Each one is good, but neither is a perfect solution.
And this is where the team at Lam-Thu University had their big breakthrough. They looked at these two approaches and thought, why choose? Why don't we just combine them? And that's exactly what they did, creating this powerful new hybrid framework.
They called it CatRAG. And that cat part is key. It stands for category guided. That right there is the secret sauce. It takes the raw speed of standard RAG and combines it with the deep contextual reasoning of GraphRAG, but then it adds a smart little traffic cop, a classifier, to direct the whole process.
Here's probably the best way to think about it. A normal chatbot might just grab a book off the shelf for you. But CatRAG is like that expert librarian who not only knows exactly which book to get and which chapter to open to, but also points out 3 other related books you didn't even know you needed. It just gets the connections.
So how does this expert librarian actually pull it off? Well, it all happens in 2 main phases. First, it has to build its brain, and then it uses that brain to find the answer. Let's take a look under the hood.
So, phase 1 is all about doing the homework up front. Before a single student asks a single question, the system devours everything. All the PDFs, all the websites, all the handbooks. It chops up all that text into smaller, more manageable pieces. And then, this is the crucial bit, it sorts every single chunk into a category, like graduation or scholarships. From there, it does 2 things at the same time. It builds a super fast, searchable index of all the text, and it creates that detailed knowledge graph mapping out how concepts like major and credits are all connected.
Okay, so the brain is fully built. Now what happens when a student comes along and asks a question? Well, the first thing the system does is classify the question itself. If you ask about graduating, it instantly knows, okay, I need to go to the graduation aisle of my library. Then the hybrid magic happens. It searches both the fast text index and the deep knowledge graph, but it smartly limits the search to just that one category. It gathers all of this rich, relevant context and hands it over to a large language model to craft the final, super accurate answer.
So, on paper, this sounds amazing, right? A total game changer. But did it actually work any better in the real world? Well, the researchers put it through some serious testing to find out.
To measure how well it did, they used a standard AI metric called an F1 score. Basically, it's a way to measure both how precise an answer is and how complete it is. A perfect score is 100%. When they paired CatRAG up with OpenAI's model, it scored, get this, 98.89%. I mean, that is just phenomenal. It's practically perfect accuracy. And when you look at the head-to-head results, you can see CatRAG clearly edged out the standard RAG when using the OpenAI model. Now, what's interesting is that with the Mistral AI model, standard RAG just barely pulled ahead. But the big takeaway here is that CatRAG is consistently performing in that absolute top tier, which really proves its hybrid approach is a powerful and reliable strategy.
Of course, there's always a trade-off, isn't there? That deeper, smarter reasoning takes just a little bit more time. It adds about 2 seconds to the response time. But as the researchers point out, this is still easily fast enough for a real-time chat. And let's be honest, that's a tiny price to pay for such a huge leap forward in the quality and the trustworthiness of the answer.
Look, this is incredible for helping students, no doubt about it. But the real impact of this research goes so much further than just academic advising. We've got to look at the bigger picture here.
Because CatRAG isn't just a university chatbot. It's a blueprint. It's a whole new recipe for building specialized AI assistants that can become true experts in any field that's full of complex rules. We're talking about legal research, financial compliance, even interpreting medical guidelines. Any area where getting the details and the context exactly right is absolutely critical, well, that's a perfect job for this kind of technology.
By figuring out how to navigate the absolute maze of university rules, these researchers have really unlocked a method for creating AI that can learn the rules of any game. And it leaves you with a pretty exciting question, doesn't it? Now that AI has conquered this labyrinth, what complex industry is next?